Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo Out of Time. I'm your host as always, Krabby Terror 8, and we are here in episode 50 something 53 I think 54. Oh my goodness, I don't remember, and I didn't look at it before I started. One of those 50 something 53 54 of the Investigator Games with everybody's favorite politician, civic and socialite Charlie Kane. Yes, and for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome to the Investigator Games. What is the Investigator Games? Well, it's like the Hunger Games. It's like the Squid Games. It's a game where we take each investigator in Arkham Horror, the card game, true solo, through a scenario. And in Season 1, it's been going for nearly 5 years now, we take them through The Gathering. And in Season 2, we take them through the Midnight Masks. Now, we are here in Season 1, and how they go, you can see on this league table. And this is the Season 1 league table. Everybody from top to bottom. Now, this obviously changes in Season 2 as the points get carried over. And we've been running through Season 1 with the new investigators from Scarlet Keys, and Charlie Kane is the last of those. So yes, once we've done this, we will tumble over into the Midnight Masks, and we will take these investigators from the Scarlet Keys through that. And you can see quite a varied range of scores there from top to bottom. So yes, now if you are brand new to Arkham Horror, the card game, you have never played before, I suggest you go and maybe look at some introductory videos on how to play. I'm assuming you know how to play a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. So yes, and also just a plug for my video, I've got some in-depth videos on The Gathering and the Midnight Masks. Everything you could ever want to know about the gameplay, the lore, the story, strategies, everything you could want to know, and they are here on this channel. So yeah, what we're going to do is we are going to just go through Charlie Kane's card in detail. Then we're going to go through the deck I've put together, which is a starter deck. I'll explain what that is. And then we will wait for the horn, and we'll kick off on the Investigator Games. So yes, Charlie Kane, as I said, he is a unusual investigator because he is colorless. And I think from memory, there's only one other colorless investigator in Arkham Horror, the card game, and that is Hayes back in the Carcosa days. So it's a relatively rare thing to get a colorless investigator, and so I think when they do pop up, it's something a little bit different. And indeed, Lola was like that. She could jump, or she can jump between different classes. So Charlie isn't like that. He's a little bit different. But the first thing we can see is that his stat line is 1 on everything. So that's challenging. So I wouldn't say he's the kind of investigator that a beginner would probably go for, because a little bit challenging from that perspective. And we can see that the first thing is that he has 3 additional ally slots, which means that's 4 ally slots. So clearly Charlie is all about allies and sort of working with allies to get outcomes. He has a fast or a lightning action, which is during a skill test you are performing. You can exhaust an ally you control, and you get +1 skill value for the test, plus an additional +1 for each skill icon that that ally asset has that matches this test's type. So if you were, we'll see in a second, but if you were doing some kind of a investigation to get a clue, you start at 1, but you could exhaust an ally that had a intellect pip on it, or intellect icon. and that would, so you would get +1, so you'd be running at a 3. So most of the time, if you're using your allies, you're going to be running at at least a 3, maybe a 4 anyway, so that's not too bad. The main thing is you have to have the allies out. So in a way, Charlie's playing a little bit, I suppose, like Leo, in the sense that having allies out is his thing. And without the allies, you really are going to struggle with Charlie. So it really is about ensuring you've got those allies out on the table. And of course, if you have a card like, which I have, but if you've got a card like Charisma, which has Charlie on it, you would then have 5 additional ally slots. So you could have a whole bunch of allies working with you and utilizing their skills. So I think Charlie, really fun to play, lots of allies helping him out, so that's the way that he plays. His Elder Son effect is a hefty +3, and you can ready an ally asset at your location, so that's good, because if you're exhausting allies to pass tests, obviously you want lots of allies so that you can pass lots of tests, and of course if you can ready an ally asset, so much the better. It can be arranged. It's just a matter of acceptable terms. He's got a 6/6 in terms of physical and mental strength, which is okay. But in a way, most people who are playing Charlie are not going to be overly concerned about that, because he's using so many allies that he can probably tank most damage, unless it's direct, of course, to his allies. So it's not going to be a big problem most of the time. So that's Charlie Kane on that side. If we just flip his card over and have a look at it. So deck size 30, standard deck size, and at the beginning of creation you choose 2 classes. So a little bit like Lola, there's a lot of flexibility around which classes you actually choose. And then you can use ally cards 0 to 5, so any ally card. So you know, and there are lots and lots and lots of allies. So you know, you've got a lot of flexibility there about that. You can take neutral cards 0 to 5 and cards from your chosen classes of 0 up to 0 to 2. So yeah, really interesting sort of choices here that you can make around Charlie and what allies he chooses. He has a couple of standard cards of his own, of course, and we will get into those in a moment. So yeah, if we just go through his background, Charlie Kane promised the people of Arkham a safer future. He made a lot of promises: lower taxes, better schools, less crime. It was part of the job, after all, and although he sometimes had to do things he wasn't proud of, Charlie always did work for the greater good. So when he started hearing reports, he put the people first. Of course, he couldn't tell anyone. Widespread panic would not serve the public good. Besides, who'd believe him? Still, Charlie has always had connections in town, so he made a few calls, put a task force together, and went to work. And yeah, so he's this kind of person who uses his charisma, uses his connections to really kind of leverage that to get things done. It's interesting, on this channel, there is a series where I identified that there was a type of archetype of investigator who could use charisma to get things done and influence. And I at the time, this is before Scarlet Keys, said that, you know, this was a class that could have perhaps existed within the Arkham Horror the card game universe, like it did in other Arkham Files games. And that Charlie Kane was a sort of exemplar of that, and in fact teamed up with other content creators like Leroy to put together a set of rules and an investigator, sort of a Charlie Kane investigator. And you can see all that on this channel. A little bit different to the Charlie Kane here, but this idea of being able to sort of leverage influence with others to kind of get what you want is a really interesting idea, and certainly a welcome one. So there we go. That's Charlie Kane. So yeah, so in terms of deck building now, every investigator starts with a standard starter deck, which is the core set plus the cards from the set from which the campaign they were sourced from, in this case Scarlet Keys. So it's limited in terms of what cards can be used, but that's one of the rules of the Investigator Games, and I'll just take you through the cards that I chose. So before we look at those cards, there's the standard cards that Charlie Kane can take, his signature cards if you like. His signature asset is Bonnie Walsh, who is an ally. Loyal Assistant is a 3-cost asset with 2 wildcard pips, and you can exhaust Bonnie Walsh to ready another ally asset you control. So again, this leans into Charlie's ability to exhaust ally assets to pass skill tests. This allows him to do that more often. And the quote here is, "Don't forget you have a 9 p.m. appointment with Mr. Sanford. Shall I book your usual table at La Bella Luna? Also, you bought me a wristwatch for my birthday. Thank you very much." So very efficient. Assistant Bonnie Walsh also can tank quite a bit of damage as well with 2/2. So very nice there. Great card. So really leans into that. Signature weakness is Burden of Leadership. If this comes out, if you control no ally assets, then you shuffle that back into your deck so if it comes up at the beginning of the game and you don't have any out. Otherwise, for each ally asset you control, either exhaust it or deal it 1 direct damage and 1 direct horror. I tell myself it was for the greater good. Was it, Bonnie? So there we go. So that just, I mean, it's not a terrible weakness really. You either just exhaust them or they take some damage, whatever you want to do there, and move on. Hypochondria was the random weakness that we chose. After you take 1 or more damage, you take a direct horror. Again, that's not too bad because, of course, we've got allies to tank things, but that's what came up there. So those are the 3 of those cards. Now, in terms of the cards I chose for Charlie's starter deck, not surprising, there are lots of allies in this. And so overall, I chose Guardian Seeker as the 2 classes. And the reason for that is it's true solo. So really, we need to be a fighter and a clue getter. So it seemed to make sense that we could do that. I know Seeker is popular as well because that allows you to do a lot of testless things, and if you fail tests, you get benefits. But I really wanted to lean into this, and allows us to do some other things as well. So just in terms of the allies, we've got 2 copies of each of these. Dr. Malign Christopher, yes, we're not playing Taboo. Dr. Malign Christopher, 4-cost asset, you get +1 to your intellect. So, of course, that's a passive boost, which is really important, which means then we're running at a minimum of 2 intellect. But the other thing is we gain a resource every time we successfully investigate. So I'm kind of banking on getting Malign Christopher out relatively early, if not at the beginning, because then that will give us a resource engine that allows us to fire up some of our other cards. I've also got Beat Cop, which again expensive, but it's a 4-cost asset, but gives us a +1 passive boost to our fight, which again, for obvious reasons, that's really good. We can also deal a damage to an enemy at our location by discarding the Beat Cop, which is usually a good finisher for someone like the Ghoul Priest, just to finish them off. Obviously, the upgraded Beat Cop, you don't have to discard them, but at this base level, that's what you do. And then it was a no-brainer to include Leo DeLuca. He's a very expensive ally, but you get an additional action during your turn. And we know in the Investigator Games, the number of turns you have and getting to the top of the table, Leo DeLuca can make a significant difference in terms of your ability to succeed, as we saw with Leo, for example. So having him on board is really, really helpful. Even though he doesn't give a passive boost, he gives you that additional action, which really can be very significant, especially in the Midnight Masks. So yes, those are the allies I've chosen to start with. Then on top of that, in terms of Seeker, and then in terms of Seeker cards, I've got the good old Magnifying Glass, which gives us a boost when investigating. So again, it's a no-brainer because I mean, if we've got Milan out and we've got the magnifying glass out, then we've got +2. So we're running then at a base 3 for investigation. And in true solo, you've got to get clues and you've got to get them relatively fast. So we needed that. We've also got some Tesla's clues here with using working a hunch, which is a fast play and discover a clue at your location. So it doesn't require us to actually pass a test. We've also got hyper-awareness, and this is what I mean about Malign Christopher. Hyper-awareness, we can spend resources to boost our intellect or our agility. So if we've got Malign Christopher generating funds, then we can use those to spend on hyper-awareness. So I'm hoping we will get that kind of synergy happening. And we've also got a couple of perceptions just to boost our intellect if we need to as well. So that's in terms of the seeker kind of side of things. In terms of fighting, which we're true solo, so we need to be able to do that. I've got the Runic Axe, which is two-handed, so probably wouldn't want to bring it out at the beginning because we need those hand slots. Well, I guess we only really need the hand slots for the magnifying glass, so it might not be a big deal. But anyway, it's a pretty good card from the Scarlet Keys. I've used it, quite like it. It's customizable. It has 4 charges, and you replenish one of these charges at the start of each round. So you can use these charges. It's a fight, you get +1 for the attack, and you can spend any number of charges on different things. At the beginning, because it's customizable, you can do other things, but at the beginning you've got accuracy and power. So you can improve the fight value and you can improve the damage. So you can just do it as a +1 fight with a +1 damage. You just use 1 charge and that gets replenished, that kind of thing. So pretty good. A good way to take out the Ghoul Priest at the end. We've got the good old machete. Yes, we're not playing taboo. And, the machete is great for just getting rid of the trash mobs along the way. You get +1 for the attack, and as long as there's only one enemy engaged with you, you get +1 damage. And then we have, the Vicious Blow, of course, for fighting, which gives us a extra damage, and we've got the good old Overpower. Yes, and then on top of that, in the Guardian class, we've also got the Physical Training, which is the equivalent of the Hyper Awareness, which gives us +1 to Willpower and Fight. So we're covering 4 of our assets with these 4 of our skills. And yeah, again, as long as we've got the resources, that allows us to boost things up. And then other than that, we just have Emergency Cash and Guts and an Unexpected Courage and a Manual Dexterity. So there we are. Dunno, what do you think? Okay, so we're all set up here in Octagon. We are ready to roll. All we're doing now is just waiting for the horn to go off so that we can start. Charlie is in the study. He's pacing around the study, smoking his cigar, which is really against non-smoking regulations, but I guess we'll let that go as long as the fire alarms don't go off. But anyway, the people are coming in and sitting themselves down. I had a chat to Charlie in the green room before we started. And he's what you would expect from a typical type of politician. He speaks in his low rumbling tone, and he talks about how, being in the Investigator Games is good for the economy, good for the country, all those sorts of carry on. He also talks about how he's brought together a crack team of advisors to help him through the gathering, and he has every confidence that this will mean victory for all. We'll see, Charlie. So, yes, he's going to give a press conference after the Investigator Games on his performance. And apparently there is also money being donated to charity and whatnot. So it's all a bit of a circus, bit of a media circus outside the Investigator Games offices at the moment, with Charlie part of this. So, we don't usually get this kind of attention. So, but, Charlie does tend to attract the more media attention than a normal. Just, it's a good job we're not in a election year, or it could have been even worse. Anyway, we'll see how he goes anyway. So yes, we'll just read out the agenda in the act deck and see where we go from there. So agenda 1A, what's going on? It's late at night and you're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning, as if something were digging beneath the floor. And yes, that's Agenda 1A and Act 1A, trapped as you leap to investigate the door to your study. Well, with a with a vitality of 1, I don't think he'd be leaping up. I think he'd be slowly getting up. The door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind a solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. Yes, we are in standard difficulty here in Octagon. And oh, there it goes. The horn goes. The crowd goes wild. Charlie Kane holds up 2V for victory signs. He's very Churchillian like that. And we will see how he goes in this episode of the Investigator Games. Okay, so here we are. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, we want allies. Yes, we want allies and we want lots of them. So let's draw many. Let's draw 5. Let's see what we get. And well, we do have one out. Oh, hold on. We've got a weakness here. So we've got to take that out and push one in. Oh, look at that. 2 allies out of the gate. How many allies can we have again? We have 3 additional. So we can have up to 4 allies all at once, which is brilliant. So we're definitely keeping those 2 because of all the allies, this is just absolutely perfect. The only problem, of course, is funding them. So yeah, we don't need 2 magnifying glasses. So I'll probably keep 1 magnifying glass and throw the other one out. Now, guts, the main reason for having something like guts on board is if we get the good old rotting remains, or indeed not frozen in fear, crypt chill, yeah, because that kind of thing could be pretty disastrous because we don't want to be losing our allies. So I'm actually thinking I might keep the guts because the last thing I want is to be crypt chilled at the wrong time. So let's throw these 2 in. No, let's not throw those 2 in. Before we throw those 2 in, let's draw 1 more. Yeah, and we get the beat cop. So look at that. So we've now got 3 of our allies. So that's pretty good. We couldn't have. So the only issue here is no weapons. So we will need weapons at some stage. So that's the main problem that we have is we've got the allies, but we don't have the weapons. So we could find ourselves in a bit of trouble if we start pulling lots and lots of enemies that we can't avoid or evade and we can't fight. So that's the biggest problem that we have here. So, which is a pity because there are plenty of weapons in the deck. So we've kind of drawn a lot of allies, but not so many weapons. Okay, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? This is going to be a bit more, this is going to be a bit different to normal. So the important thing that we need to do here, first of all, is we need to get our economy engine going. That's the critical thing at the beginning, because without that, we're just not going to have the money to bring everything else out. So I could, in theory, start with Leo DeLuca, but the problem with starting with Leo DeLuca, and yes, I can use Leo DeLuca to investigate, it's really not going to give us what we need. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spend 4 and bring out Milan Christopher. That's the first thing we're going to do, because then we're now at a base of 2 in terms of our intellect. We're then going to spend the final 1 as a fast action. So that was our first action. Then we're going to spend 1 as our fast action to bring out the magnifying glass. So we're now running at a 3 versus a 2. So that's already much better than where we were before, right? So yes, we're at a 3 versus a 2. Let's go ahead and exhaust an ally. So let's exhaust Milan. Let's do this. So you exhaust an ally, you get +1. So we're currently running at a 1, 2, a 3 to investigate. That gives us a 4. And also we have an intellect pip here. So that gives us a 5 on a 2. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go and investigate. 5 on a 2. Chaos bag gives us a -1, so we succeed. We get that clue and we get a resource. Okay, that's good. All right, awesome. Let's do that again. Now this time we're only running at a 1, a 2, a 3. So this time we're only running at a 3. I'm obviously not going to throw in Leo DeLuca, but we're running at a 3 versus a 2. So we're 1 up. I mean, you know, skulls are -0, so we've got a pretty good chance. Let's see how we go. And we get yet another -1. Yep, so we get that second clue. And we get yet another resource. Yeah. So that's great. So what we were able to do was we brought out Malign Christopher. We then fast brought out the magnifying glass. We used our new ability to give us a really big boost to our investigation, which we did, and we got a clue and a resource. And then we did it again, and we got another clue and a resource. So we've got all of the clues from the study, which is really good. It also means that if, for whatever reason, we get an enemy when we pull from the encounter set, now we don't have to fight it. We can just get rid of it, and we don't have to worry too much about it. So a pretty good start. I'm pretty happy with that start. I just hope we draw into a weapon shortly. Okay, let's move into the enemy phase, or yes, the enema phase, as I like to call it. And there are no enemies or enemas to speak of, so we can move into the upkeep phase and we get perception, which is, again, that's nice. We can keep that for when we're in the cellar, but what we are missing is some kind of weapon, which could be a problem if we don't get something like that soon. Anyway, speaking of which, we will move into the first Doom of the Mythos phase, and let's see what the good old encounter deck has. And it's got Obscuring Fog. Okay, well, that's a complete no-brainer, no problem. That doesn't cause us any problems whatsoever. Okay. Awesome. So let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Charlie. Well, the first thing we're going to do, of course, is we are going to flip the act. So let's get rid of the clues. Let's flip the act. The door on the floor. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. Okay, so we put into play the hallway and the attic and the cellar, which we've done. Discard each enemy from the study. There's none. And put the investigator in the hallway and remove the study. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and do all those bits. So the study is gone and Obscuring Fog, they have both gone. We're in the hallway. Ding. Okay, let's flip the hallway. And yes, we're in the hallway. And we're into Act 2. The barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlour. As you move toward it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues to advance. So there we go. Okay, so we're in the hallway. We're all set up here. We've got 3. We've got 3 resources. So we've got a couple of options here. We could get the beat cop on board now. So we could take a resource, get the beat cop on board, which means we would be a little better in terms of being able to fight. So we could do that. The other option is we could just go up to the attic and get more cash that way, because we could move up, we could investigate, and that would give us the 4th, and then we could bring out the big cop, or we could keep our money for Leo DeLuca, which would give us extra actions next time. Wow, some options here. I'm really concerned that we're going to draw into a enemy, and that if we do, we are in all kinds of trouble. So whilst I want Leo DeLuca, there's no point having Leo DeLuca on the table if we can't fight any enemies. So what I'm thinking is we can play it super safe and get another resource, bring out the big cop and move up. Or we could move up. We would be, what would we be? We would be a 1 with 2, 3, 5 versus 1. So that's almost assured. I think that's a risk worth taking, and it keeps us moving forward rather than stopping. So the first thing I'm going to do is move up to the attic. La-di-da-di-da, up to the attic. Yes, and the sight of the paint pots and malformed beast carcasses and all the rest causes us to take a horror. Well, let's put the horror on Milan. We don't need the horror at the moment. Second action, let's go ahead and investigate 1. Let's exhaust Milan Christopher. So we're doing a 1, 2, 3 base investigation, but then with our special ability, that's a 4. And then with the skill icon, that gives us a 5. So 5 versus 1. Chaos Bag gives us a 0, so we easily get that clue. Whoops. Where did the clue go? Oh, okay. We'll just add a clue here. We get another resource, so we now have 4 resources. And, yep. And the final action, I'm going to spend the 4. I'm going to bring out the beat cop. So that's our second slot. So, and now we're running at a 2 fight. So we can hold our own against basic enemies at the very least with the beat cop. So there we go. So that was a pretty good round. We got out the beat. We moved up to the attic. We took a horror. We successfully investigated, which gave us a resource. And then we brought out the beat cop. So we're now set up for clues. We're set up for fighting. Well, kind of set up for fighting. We still need a weapon. But we can deal with some basic enemies should they arise, rats and ghoul minions and things like that. So at least we can do that. So pretty happy so far. Next time we'll get the attic done and then get ourselves down to the cellar. Hopefully we'll pick up a weapon along the way. We do want to get out Leo DeLuca. He's just so expensive, so an emergency cache would also be handy. But anyway, we can't have everything. So we move into the enema phase. There are no enemas to speak of. We move into upkeep. And what do we get? Ah, okay, so we get working a hunch. Okay, that's all right. I'd rather have a weapon, though. Yep. So let's move into the Mythos phase. The second Doom is down. Let's see what we get from the encounter deck. And we get Dissonant Voices. Dissonant Voices. Still lives. Yeah, we can't play assets or events. Okay, well, we weren't going to play Leo. And we can't play Working Hunch, which we weren't going to either. So that's not a big deal. Okay. Good-o. All right, let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Charlie. Okay. What are we going to do? Well, I think we're going to have a pretty straightforward round here. First action, we are going to investigate 1. Let's exhaust Milan again. So 1 versus 5. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, which is 0, so we get that clue. We get a resource. Nice. We've got 2 actions left. So we could either take more resources, which would allow us to then get Leo DeLuca done, because then we would be closer to being able to bring him onto the table. Or we could go down to the cellar and use that to generate more cash. So I'm just thinking we go down to the cellar. So I think we spend 2. We go down to the cellar. And we are so busy showing Milan and the beat cop lovely magnifying glasses. We're going down the cellar. We don't see what we're doing. We trip. Charlie Kane goes tumbling down the stairs and takes a damage. Well, actually, the beat cop goes tumbling down the stairs and takes the damage. And yes, so yeah, Charlie's not taking any damage. Okay, pretty good round, pretty straightforward. Got ourselves a clue and a resource. Moved down to the cellar, took a damage, and we're ready to get these clues next time. So we're moving through pretty fast. It's just lucky we got Milan and the magnifying glass out early. And we can indeed, well, no, we want to keep our resource. I was going to say we could use this to get ourselves a clue, but I'm actually thinking it might be worthwhile trying to get, maybe we can try and get Leader Chandler as an ally, which would be very nice. Definitely worthwhile, I think. Okay. Great. Let's move into the enemy phase. No enemies to speak of. Let's move into upkeep, and we get another beat cop. Okay. That's not really what we want. We want a weapon. We're not getting a weapon, so we're going to have to start searching up a weapon. So we'll move into the Mythos phase. Sorry, this should have gone into the round, so we will delete that. And whoops, here we go. The agenda has flipped. Let's see what the other side says. Okay, a lapse in time. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It was almost as if you'd been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Ah, there's my Nobel Peace Prize. Ah, yes, there's my cigar cutter. Gold-plated. I wondered where that was. Those sorts of things. Each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or takes 2 horror. Yeah, I think we'll take the 2 horror. We'll put a horror onto the beat cop. And we will take a horror. I don't really want to lose any of these cards. So there we go. And we are now into Agenda 2A, the rise of the ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels. I love all those S's in that. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find the way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do, indeed. So there we go. So we're on the action agendas 2. And before we do anything else, let's not forget to draw from the encounter deck. And we get a swarm of rats. So I'm glad we brought out the beat cop, because we need to deal with a swarm of rats, which is quite appropriate for the cellar, really, isn't it? Yes. Let's move into the investigation phase 3. Actions on to Charlie. Well, the first thing we're going to do is deal with these rats. So we are a 1, 2. So we're running at a 2 versus a 1, but we can exhaust the beat cop, which gives us a +1 to the skill value. So that gives us a 1, 2, 3. And of course it's got a fight. Beat cop's got a fight, so that's a 4. 4 versus a 1. Pretty good. So 4 versus a 1. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has. And the Chaos Bag is a 0, so we easily kill the rats. That's our first action. Okay. Whoops. Second action. Now, we are running at a... We can potentially go 1, 2, 3, 5 versus 4. Yes. So I think we go ahead and exhaust Malign Christopher to give us the 5 versus a 4, and then we bring in Perception, make it a 7 versus a 4. Chaos Bag, it gives us -2, so we succeed on that investigation, so we get the clue. We get a resource, and we also get to draw a card. We get another Perception, so let's, well, yeah, we can't. do that again, but we are running at a 3. We can make that a 5. We can make that a 7. So we can make that a 7 versus a 4 again. Chaos Bag gives us a tablet, which is a -2. Ghoul enemy at your location taking damage. There isn't. So we succeed again. And indeed, we draw another card. Hey, there we go. And the crowd goes wild because indeed we get a victory point. There we go. We get our second victory point. I forgot to say the crowd goes wild before, but they did. I heard them. I was just so busy doing other things. So we now have both of our victory points. We have our clues. Oops. And we should have drawn ourselves another resource for that. So yeah, so things are really starting to go well now. So that was a pretty good round. We beat the rats. We got a clue and a resource, and we got another clue and a resource, and we've drawn into a machete. So really all we need to do now is, I mean, I'm wondering whether we even need Leo DeLuca now, because all we really need to do is bring out the machete and get ourselves ready to take on the Ghoul Priest. We're probably a little bit light on, though, in terms of fighting. Like, we don't have any vicious blows or anything like that. So we might need to just spend some time drawing some more cards. Okay. Let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies. Let's move into upkeep. And we get emergency cash. That's good, actually. That came at exactly the right time. So that gives us 8. We need 9. So I think we could spend a bit of time just bringing out some things next time. So that was actually good timing. Pretty good timing, really. Before we do all of that, we've got to get through the Mythos phase. First Doom is down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And of course, it's got Crypt Chill, which actually is no big deal because we don't need the magnifying glass anymore. So I don't care about this. However, because we're running at a 1 versus a 4, I mean, we can make it a 3 versus a 4, I guess. But I would rather keep this for Rotting Remains, to be honest, because even if you're 1 under on Rotting Remains, it's better to be 1 under on Rotting Remains than trying to beat it. So I'm probably going to keep the guts and just fail and lose the magnifying glass. So let's go ahead and do that. And we get an auto fail anyway. We lose the magnifying glass. No big deal. Okay, that's good. Okay. Let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Charlie. This is going to be a rather boring round because first action, we're going to put in emergency cash, which gives us 8. Second action, I'm going to bring out Leo. So we lose 6 resources. But we gain an action. We've still got 2 actions left. Third action, I'm going to take a resource. Final action, we're going to play the machete. There we go. Okay, we've used up all our cash, but look at that now. We're in an amazing position now. We've got 3 allies on the table. We've got our machete in hand. So we're doing pretty good because that will now give us a 1. We're 2. And the machete gives us a 3. Resource, if we exhaust beat cop, that gives us a 5. So we're running at a 5. So we've got a couple of options here. We're going to have to draw into more cards, and either we're going to get some fight cards, or we're going to get more intellect cards, and we can get Leech Chandler to give us a boost in that way. So we'll just have to see how we go. But pretty good, pretty happy now. We're in a pretty good position. The only problem will be is if we end up having to fight more than one enemy. The machete might not be the best for that. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. We move into upkeep. We get physical training. Yeah, physical training is really good. I mean, it's going to cost us money, but then if we can build up resources. So the only problem is we're sort of low on resources now, but we could build them up, which would mean we could boost our fight. which would do what we need it to do. So that might be the way to go. Okay, let's move in to the Mythos Phase 2 Doom of the 7 a down. Let's see what the encounter card has. And it's got the Rotting Remains. We knew it was coming. Test 3. For each point you fail by, take a horror. Well, we will push this up to a 3 versus a 3. Let's see how we go. Chaos Bag gives us a tablet, which is -2. So we take 2 horror. 2 horror. Well, we can put a horror onto Leo. That's fine. We can put a horror there. We can, and then we'll take the other horror. So we'll take too much horror because we've taken a couple of pieces, but you know that goes into our discard pile. We get to draw a card, and we get hyper awareness as well. I don't think hyper awareness is very useful anymore, except maybe to get Leader Chandler on board. So yeah. Anyway. Let's move in to the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Charlie. Okay. What are we going to do here? So we're kind of okay. I mean, we've only got 1 resource. We really need more cards. So I'm going to start drawing into cards. So let's draw a card and we get our Runic Axe. Yeah, okay. We'll draw again. 2 Runic Axes. Let's draw again. And okay. All right. Well, we've got fight. We're able to fight now, but it's I don't know. It's not quite what I was looking to draw for. But anyway. There we go. Enemy phase, no enemies to speak of. We move into upkeep, get working a hunch. So that would be, so I'm starting to feel like we could get Leader Chandler because we would be a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could definitely use that to boost our allies. And then if we've got Leader Chandler, we're doing extra damage. That's starting to feel like the way to go. Probably with physical training as help. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Right. Let's move into the Mythos Phase 3 Doom and down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got another Rotting Remains. Oh my goodness. Well, we can contribute 1 of these physical trainings to that. So that gets us up to 2 versus a 3. If we... Okay, so the most we can take is 3... horror. 3 horror. No, I wish I had physical training out because that boosts that. We've taken quite a lot of horror actually, looking at it. I want to keep this physical training because it's a really good card. So I'm just going to have to wear it. Here we go. So we are a 2 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us a -4. Wow, okay. So that gets us to 5. We lose 3. We get 3 horror. So we are 1 off. But actually we're not 1 off because we've got all these other. And I guess if we had to lose somebody, it would probably be Milan if we had to go down that path. Okay. All right. Oh dear. Taking a lot of horror. Let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Charlie. So I'm thinking the first action is I am going to spend 2 and bring out the physical training. I just think it's a good thing to have. That was first action. Second action, I'm going to move up to the hallway. And then third action, I'm going to take a resource because we need more resources now. Yeah. So, yeah, trying to get ourselves ready for, what might come next. Okay. All right, we move into the enemy phase. No enemies to speak of. We move in upkeep, unexpected courage. That's a good card to get. We can use that to fight with. So we've now got 1, 2, 3, 5 fight pips. So we're getting there. We move into the Mythos phase 4 Doom and Down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. It's got, Place of Doom on the current agenda. Now that's sped things up quite a bit. Okay. Yeah, things were going really fast, but we've lost quite a bit of time. Yeah, so... So, yes, we have. So let's move into the investigation phase 3 actions. On to Charlie. So, yeah, what do we do here? So I'm trying to think. We've got them. So we could throw in our clues next time because we don't really want this to flip. The only thing we're doing is we're kind of taking a risk that we're only going to engage the Ghoul Priest. But at the same time, what we could do is get our resources up. But I'm just trying to think. So with the big cop, I just realized I think we should have had an extra action for Leo DeLuca, which we didn't do. Yes, I don't think we took our extra action. Yeah. Ah, dear. I'm pretty sure I didn't take an extra action, so I would take another resource. Because what did we do last time? We brought out physical training. I can look on here on the log, can't I? We only did 3 actions. We put physical training on the table. And then we added resources. So I'm just going to take another resource. That's what I would have done. Okay, so we've got 4 actions now. I think 3, 4, 5. We've got this. So it's a question of... So there's 2 things. We could bring out the runic axe. We could take another resource, bring out the runic axe, and draw 2 more resources. But then we would only have 2 resources, but we would have the runic axe. Or we can just use these for fights. So the only challenge is if we drew into an enemy. Yeah. I don't know which is better to do, because this gives us +1 damage, or +2 fight, but then we need the extra damage. See, I don't think we can do Leader Chandler because we'd need to evade the Ghoul Priest, and we can't evade. So we've either got to risk with the machete that we're going to not draw into an enemy, because if we do, we would only be doing 1 point of damage every time. Or we end up with only 2 resources, but we get 3 because we'd get another one in the upkeep. And then we have the runic axe, which would work irrespective. But then we've lost a fight pip as well. Wow, it really... Which is better? I'm feeling we should take the risk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a card first of all. First action. You're kidding. Wow. Better now. Take 1 or more damage, take a direct horror. Oh, God. No, we don't want that. Okay, I'm going to spend 2, and I'm going to get rid of... Hold on, that was the first. 4, 3, 2. Get rid of hypochondria. And then I'm going to get a resource. Oh dear, well it's better to get, like, we, you know, one or more damage, take a direct horror. That would all be all over. So we can't do that. So that kind of changed things a bit. We drew a card, but we drew hypochondria in our first action. We then got rid of hypochondria with 2 actions, and then we took a resource. So yeah, enemy phase. There are no enemies. Upkeep. We get another machete. Well, that's another fight pip, so that's good. Yeah, we're going to throw in our 3 clues. I'm not going to mess around anymore, because if we do, we're going to end up with multiple enemies on us, and we've got a machete in hand, so we need to deal with it now. All right. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders and consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage to the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Doink. And put Leader Chandler into play and the Ghoul Priest into play. Let's bring them out. Here they are. Ta-da! Hello, Charlie. Oh, I don't think you're going to be able to run away from that Ghoul Priest and come and say hello to me, I'm afraid. Oh, dear, I'm afraid you're on your own. Well, not on your own. You've got lots of friends with you. I think you'll be just fine without me. So there we go. And hello, Charlie. Oh, hello, Milan. Beat Cop. Leo DeLuca. Oh, you got all your friends with you. Why don't you fight me mano a mano instead, huh? I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, so here we are. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams furious. But before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Okay. Let's see. Okay, 6 Doomer down. Let's see what we get. And we get an Icy Ghoul. My heart stopped for a moment there. So the Icy Ghoul spawns in the cellar, which means the good news is that means we don't have to deal with more than one ghoul at the same time. The bad news is that under different circumstances, we could have gotten ourselves an extra victory point. But I think we're a bit beyond that now. So we're just going to have to go with what we've got. Okay. The one I was really worried about was the Ravenous Ghoul. That would have been the worst of all to get, but we didn't get that. Okay, let's move into the investigation phase. 4 actions. On to Charlie. Right, Charlie. Here we go. It's machete time. Okay, so what are we going to do here? Well, let's give the Beat Cop some room, because we're going to exhaust the Beat Cop. We've used this ability quite a bit. So during a skill test, exhaust the ally. You get +1 for this value. So we're currently an attack of 2, but that gives us a 3 and 4. So we're fighting at a base of 4 against the Ghoul Priest 4. 4 and a 4. But we can make that a 5, 6. We've got cash as well, don't we? But let's just use up our cards first. 7. Do we make it an 8? Just trying to think. We've only got 5 of these. We need to do this 3 times. So if I do another one, because we're doing a 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we would have to do 4, 5, 6, 2. And that would leave us 3, which would get us to 7. But we've also got the discard the Beat Cop. So, yeah, but that doesn't matter in this case. Oh, yes, it does. It does, you're all saying. So actually, we only have to do it twice. So let's go for the maximum, so that I've just realised we can discard the Beat Cop and finish off the Ghoul Priest. So once again, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 on the 4. Chaos Bag gives us a cultist, -1, so we succeed. And we do 2 points of damage. Ow! Nice. Okay, that was first action. Second action, let's go again. Let's throw these in. What are we? 1, 2. Oh, no, he's not exhausted. You're all screaming at me. You can't exhaust him again, dude. Exactly right. So we're actually only running at a 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's okay. 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank goodness for physical training. So it's an 8 on a 4. Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we succeed again. Ow! That's 4 points of damage, and indeed we discard the beat cop, and we do the final piece of damage. And the Ghoul Priest goes down. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was pretty good, pretty straightforward. Things went really well. We didn't get extra victory points, but we managed to defeat the Ghoul Priest by turn 9. So Charlie did a pretty good job. I think, yeah, obviously the thing that worked well with Charlie was we managed to get the right allies at the right time. So we got Milan Christopher and the Magnifying Glass early in the game, which meant we could get the clues, which means we could generate more resources, which means we could bring out the big cop, and then ultimately we could bring out Leo DeLuca. So, and having then the physical training, which means we could drive the resources to give us the extra fight. So all of the pieces fell into place. I can imagine, though, in an alternate universe, things might not have worked out that way. But I like playing Charlie. I like this idea of having all these allies around you that you can use. I like this ability as well. It's really great, this sort of exhausting an ally, getting the +1 values. Works really, really well. So there we go. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Now, the good news is that next time in the Investigator Games, we will be back to Season 2, The Midnight Masks. Yes, we will be back to Season 2 of The Midnight Masks. And we will be taking Vincent Lee through The Midnight Masks. And then, of course, all the other Scarlet Keys investigators, and we'll see how they go. But until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.